Hello, everyone. My name is Kelsey Edwards, and for my professional development presentation, I will be presenting on digital addiction. Before we begin, I'd like everyone to think about one question. When was the last time you checked your phone? Most of us don't even think twice about reaching for our phones. Digital technology has become such a normal part of everyday life that many of our habits happen automatically. Technology itself is not the problem. In fact, it provides incredible benefits. It helps us stay connected with family and friends, complete schoolwork, access healthcare, entertain ourselves, and even learn new skills. However, when technology begins to interfere with our sleep, relationships, academic performance, mental health, or daily responsibilities, it becomes something we need to pay closer attention to. Today, we're going to explore what digital addiction is, why it happens, how it affects adolescents, and most importantly, how counselors, educators, and families can promote healthy digital habits rather than simply eliminating technology altogether. By the end of today's presentation, you should be able to define digital addiction and problematic technology use, identify common warning signs in adolescents, explain the psychological, physical, and social and academic effects of excessive technology use, recognize protective factors, and apply evidence-based strategies that encourage healthier technology habits. When students come into your office with anxiety, declining grades, sleep problems, or peer conflict, technology may not be the presenting problem, but it could certainly be a contributing factor to those concerns. As school counselors, we're in a unique position because we often see students before these habits become severe. We can educate families, teach self regulation skills, collaborate with teachers, and help students develop healthier relationships with technology. I'd encourage you to think throughout this presentation about how you might use this information in your own practice. Before we dive into the research, I'd like everyone to pause and think for a second. Mentally raise your hand if you can check your phone, if you check your phone within the first 10 minutes of waking up. Now, raise your hand if, or mentally raise your hand, if you sleep with your phone next to you, or if you feel anxious when you cannot find your phone. What's interesting is that none of these behaviors automatically mean someone has a digital addiction. Checking your phone frequently has become culturally normal. The concerns begins with when we lose control over our technology use. For example, staying awake scrolling long after intending to sleep, feeling unable to stop watching short videos, becoming irritable when internet access is unavailable, ignoring homework, relationships, or responsibilities because of screen time. Many researchers compare this to other behavioral addictions because the issue isn't the device itself, it's our relationship with the device. Why does this matter? Recent research found that teenagers who spent more recreational screen time, not including schoolwork, were significantly more likely to experience several negative health outcomes. These included less physical activity, poor sleep quality, irregular sleep routines, weight concerns, increased symptoms of anxiety, increased symptoms of depression, lower levels of emotional support, reduced peer support. I think one of the most important points here is that these problems rarely occur in isolation. Imagine a teenager who stays up until 2 in the morning watching TikTok videos. The next day, they're exhausted because they're tired, they struggle to pay attention in class. Their grades begin to fall, they're too tired to participate in sports. Now they're spending even more time online. It's a cycle. Each issue reinforces the next. As counselors, we often work backwards to identify these patterns rather than treating only one visible symptom. So, what exactly is digital addiction? Digital addiction refers to excessive or compulsive use of digital devices that interferes with daily functioning and overall well being. Notice that the definition doesn't mention a certain number of hours. Someone may spend 8 hours on a computer for work and not be addicted. Another person may spend 3 hours online but experience significant impairment. The key word is interference. We begin asking questions like: is technology affecting sleep? Is it interfering with school performance? Are relationships suffering? Is the person unable to reduce use despite wanting to? These questions help us distinguish heavy use from problematic use. When people hear digital addiction, they often think only about social media. But digital addiction can involve many different online activities. Examples include social media platforms, video gaming, streaming services, online shopping, messaging applications, short form video platforms like TikTok or Instagram Reels. Each of these platforms is designed to keep our attention. Think about autoplay on Netflix or infinite scrolling on TikTok or notifications that immediately grab our attention. These aren't accidental design features. Many technology companies intentionally design their platforms to maximize user engagement. The longer we stay online, the more advertisements we see, and the more profitable those platforms become. As counselors, understanding this neuroscience helps us approach students with empathy rather than judgment. Many adolescents aren't simply lacking willpower. They're interacting with a technology that has been intentionally designed to capture and hold their attentions. So now we will watch a quick video about the science behind digital addiction. Now that we have watched a video about digital addiction and why it happens neurologically, let's examine the factors that increase a young person's risk, the warning signs counselors should look for, and significant impact excessive technology use can have on mental health, physical health, and body image. Research consistently shows that digital addiction is not simply an individual issue. Family dynamics play a significant role in either increasing or decreasing a child's risk. This slide highlights several family factors associated with problematic technology use, including parental warmth, psychological control, behavioral control, parent child relationships, parental conflict, and overall family functioning. Now, I want to briefly explain what some of these terms mean. Parental warmth refers to children feeling loved, supported, and emotionally connected to their caregivers. When children experience warmth and secure attachment, they are often less likely to rely on technology to meet their emotional needs. Psychological control occurs when parents attempt to manipulate emotions through guilt, criticism, or withdrawing affection. This type of parenting can increase emotional distress, causing some adolescents to escape into online environments. Behavioral control is different. It refers to healthy supervision, consistent expectations, and age appropriate monitoring. Appropriate behavioral control actually serves as a protective factor. Family conflict also matters. When home feels stressful or unpredictable, many adolescents use gaming, social media, or streaming as a coping mechanism to temporarily escape those emotions. As counselors, it is important to remember that technology often isn't the root problem, it's sometimes the coping strategy for another issue. So, if we're working with students, what should we actually be looking for? There are several behavioral and academic warning signs that may indicate problematic technology use. Behaviorally, we may notice excessive screen time, irritability when devices aren't available, neglect of responsibilities, withdrawal from family activities, and difficulty controlling technology use. One thing I want to emphasize is that these behaviors often develop gradually. Parents may first notice that their child is staying up later than usual. Teachers may observe increased fatigue. Grades slowly begin declining. Students become less involved in extracurricular activities. Friends mention they never want to hang out anymore because they're always online. These changes can seem unrelated until we start connecting the dots. Academically, counselors may notice missing assignments, reduced concentration, lower classroom engagement, declining grades. I think one of the most important questions counselors can ask is, has technology started interfering with things that used to be important to the student? If the answer is yes, then it's worth exploring further. Rather than asking, how many hours are you on your phone? We might ask, what do you usually do online? How do you feel when you can't use your phone? Have you ever tried to cut back? Do you think technology helps your stress, or sometimes makes it worse? These open ended questions encourage conversation rather than defensiveness. One reason digital addiction has received so much attention over the past several years is because of its relationship with mental health. Research has found that excessive technology use is associated with increased symptoms of anxiety, depression, emotional dysregulation, inattention, irritability, and body image concerns. It is important to point out that researchers are still studying cause and effect. Does excessive screen time contribute to anxiety? Or do anxious adults spend more time online? My apologies, anxious adolescents spend more time online. The answer is likely both. For example, a teenager feels lonely. They begin spending more time on social media. While online, they compare themselves to others. They begin feeling worse about themselves. To escape those emotions, they spend even more time online. The cycle continues. As counselors, this reminds us to assess technology use whenever students present with emotional concerns. We shouldn't assume technology is always the cause, but we also shouldn't overlook it as a contributing factor. When working with students experiencing anxiety or depression, one intervention we may include helping them become more mindful of how different online activities affect their mood. Not all screen time is equal. Video chatting with friends may increase connection. Doom scrolling for 3 hours before bed likely does not. When we think about digital addiction, we often focus on mental health, but the physical effects are equally important. Research has identified several physical health consequences associated with excessive technology use. These include poor posture, sleep interruptions, weight gain, eye strain, thumb and wrist overuse injuries, and an overall reduction in quality of life. I'd like to spend a moment talking about sleep because it is one of the most significant concerns for adolescents. Many students keep their phones beside their beds. Even if they intend to go to sleep, notifications, messages, or social media often delay bedtime. In addition, the blue light emitted from screens can interfere with melatonin production, making it more difficult to fall asleep. Poor sleep then affects attention, emotional regulation, memory, academic performance, and even physical health. As school counselors, one of the simplest recommendations we can make is encouraging families to charge devices outside the bedroom. It is a small change that often produces meaningful improvements in quality sleep. Social media and self image. One of the most widely discussed consequences of digital technology today is its influence on self image. Social media platforms frequently present carefully edited, filtered, and unrealistic images. Most people don't post ordinary moments, they post highlights, the perfect vacation, the best selfie after taking about 50 pictures, the exciting accomplishments. Rarely do we see the everyday struggles that everyone experiences. Because of this, adolescents often compare their behind the scenes reality to someone's highlight reel. Research suggests that girls often experience pressure to appear both thin and curvy, while boys may feel the pressure to appear muscular and athletic. Another important point is that likes, comments, and follower counts can begin to influence self worth. Instead of asking, "Do I like this picture?" students may ask, "Will other people like this picture?" That shift places validation outside of themselves. As counselors, one of our goals is helping students reconnect with their own values rather than relying on online approval. I like everyone to think about this question for a moment. Have you ever looked at someone's social media and thought they had everything figured out? Now ask yourself, how much of their actual life do you think you were seeing? Maybe 1%, maybe 5%. Social media is carefully curated. Recognizing that can reduce some of the unhealthy comparison that both adolescents and even adults experience. So, when working with students around body image, counselors can teach media literacy, discuss photo editing and filters, encourage students to unfollow accounts that make them feel worse about themselves, help them identify creators who promote realistic, diverse, and healthy messages, and strengthen self esteem based on personal strengths, whether relationships, character, and values rather than appearance. So far, we have discussed what digital addiction is, why it develops, the warning signs, and its impact on mental and physical health. Next, we are going to apply this information using a case study. Then explore protective factors and practical strategies that families, schools, and counselors can use to promote healthier technology habits. I'd like everyone to read through Jordan's story. Jordan is a 15-year-old student who uses a smartphone between 8 and 10 hours a day. Jordan sleeps about 5 to 6 hours each night. Grades have begun to decline, and Jordan reports feeling anxious whenever disconnected from their phone. Rather than immediately jumping to solutions, let's think like counselors. One of the most important skills we develop is taking a step back and gathering information before making conclusions. Let's talk about what you may have noticed. You probably identified several warning signs like excessive daily screen time, sleep deprivation, declining academic performance, anxiety when separated from technology. Those are all significant indicators that technology is interfering with Jordan's daily functioning. If Jordan came into my office, I wouldn't begin by saying, "You need to spend less time on your phone." Instead, I start by building rapport and trying to understand what purpose technology serves in Jordan's life. I'd ask questions like, what do you enjoy most about being online? How do you feel before you pick up your phone? What happens if you're unable to use it? And what do you think has changed over the past year? These questions help us identify whether technology is providing escape, connection, entertainment, stress relief, or validation. As counselors, some interventions can include psychoeducation about healthy technology habits, sleep habit education, cognitive behavior therapy techniques to recognize triggers, goal setting around screen time reduction, encouraging offline hobbies, parent consultation to create consistent technology expectations, and collaboration with teachers if academic concerns continue. Notice that none of these interventions involve simply taking away the phone. Instead, we're teaching self regulation and replacing unhealthy habits with healthier alternatives. Fortunately, there are many protective factors that help reduce the likelihood of problematic technology use. This slide highlights several factors that promote resilience, including positive family relationships, strong peer support, extracurricular involvement, healthy sleep habits, emotional regulation skills, and digital literacy. I love this slide because it reminds us that preventing digital addiction isn't about focusing on only screen time. It's about strengthening protective factors and healthy routines. Think about students who participate in sports, music, clubs, theater, maybe volunteering or extracurricular activities. Those activities naturally reduce opportunities for excessive screen use while increasing social connection and self confidence. As school counselors, many of our Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions already build these protective factors. For example, classroom lessons on emotional regulation, friendship groups, lunch bunch, mindfulness groups, social skill groups, family engagement nights. Even though these interventions aren't specifically about technology, they often reduce the need for unhealthy digital coping. So, what practical advice can we give students? Fortunately, small changes often make a significant difference. This slide outlines several evidence based strategies, including monitoring screen time, turning off unnecessary notifications, creating technology free study periods, engaging in physical activity, participating in hobbies and extracurricular activities, practicing mindfulness and self awareness. I especially like the idea of turning off notifications. Think about how many times our attention is interrupted each day. Every vibration, banner, or sound pulls us away from whatever we're doing. Research on attention suggests that after an interruption, it can take several minutes to fully regain focus. By reducing unnecessary notifications, students can improve concentration without dramatically changing their screen time. I also encourage students to ask themselves one simple question before opening an app. Why am I opening this? Am I checking a message? Am I bored? Am I avoiding homework? Am I anxious? Developing this awareness helps students become more intentional instead of automatically reaching for their phones. Parents may also play a critical role in promoting healthy technology habits. The recommendations on this slide include modeling healthy technology habits, establishing clear expectations, creating technology-free family times, encouraging open communication, coaching rather than punishing, and using family media agreements. I think modeling is perhaps the most important recommendation. Children notice what adults do much more than what adults say. If parents tell their children to put their phones away while constantly checking their own devices, those mixed messages become very apparent. I encourage families to think about technology as a shared responsibility rather than a punishment. Instead of saying you're grounded from your phone, parents might say, let's work together to create a healthier habit for everyone in our family. That approach reduces power struggles while increasing collaboration. As school counselors, we can support parents by offering parent workshops, sharing digital wellness resources, encouraging consistent expectations between home and school, helping families create realistic technology plans rather than unrealistic restrictions. Our goal is not to eliminate technology, our goal is balance. So far, we've talked about what digital addiction is and strategies to address it. Now, let's think about prevention. One of the most effective prevention tools is creating intentional family technology habits. This simple family digital wellness plan encourages families to work together by answering the following 3 questions. What technology habit would you like to improve? What family activity could replace screen time? What household technology boundary would be helpful? This reminds us that digital wellness isn't just an issue for adolescents, it's something that many of us continue to work on throughout adulthood. Some examples of healthy family boundaries include no phones during meals, charging devices outside the bedroom, scheduling one screen-free family activity each week. I especially like these examples because they're realistic. Notice that they don't say no phones ever. Instead, they create intentional times where technology doesn't interfere with sleep, communication, or relationships. As counselors, helping families create realistic goals is much more effective than encouraging extreme restrictions. Of course, families can't address this issue alone. Schools and communities also play an important role. This slide highlights several important supports: school counselors, mental health providers, parent education programs, digital citizenship curriculum, and community wellness initiatives. As counselors, this is where our profession really shines. We have opportunities to intervene at multiple levels. At the Tier 1 level, we can provide classroom lessons on digital citizenship, healthy technology habits, coping skills, and emotional wellness. At the Tier 2 level, we might facilitate small groups focused on anxiety, self-esteem, social skills, and emotional regulation, areas often connected to problematic technology use. At the Tier 3 level, we collaborate with families, teachers, and administrators, and community mental health providers to support students with more significant concerns. Another important role we have is consultation. Teachers may notice declining attention. Parents may report behavioral changes at home. Our job is often to help connect those observations and determine whether technology could be contributing. I also think it is important to avoid framing technology as the enemy. Technology allows students to learn, communicate, build friendships, and access support. Our goal is not eliminating technology. Our goal is helping students use it intentionally rather than compulsively. As we wrap up, I'd like to review the major ideas from today's presentation. There are 5 key takeaways I'd like you to remember. First, digital addiction is becoming increasingly common among children and adolescents. Second, excessive technology doesn't only affect one area of life, it can influence mental health, sleep, academic performance, physical health, and relationships simultaneously. Third, prevention and early intervention matter. The earlier we recognize unhealthy patterns, the easier they are to address. Fourth, families don't need perfection. Small, consistent habits often make the biggest difference. And finally, perhaps the most important takeaway of today's presentation is balance, not elimination, is the goal. I really want to emphasize that point. Technology isn't inherently good or bad. Like many tools, it is important. Its impact depends on how we use it. Helping students build healthy habits is far more realistic than expecting them to avoid technology altogether. I'd like to leave you with one final thought. Technology has become woven into nearly every part of our daily lives. Most adolescents today have never experienced a world without smartphones, social media, or constant digital connection. Because of that, it is unrealistic to expect students to simply stop using technology. Instead, our responsibility as counselors is to teach balance. We can help students become more aware of their habits, developing healthier coping skills, strengthen relationships, improve emotional regulation, and use technology intentionally rather than automatically. When we approach these issues with empathy instead of judgment, we create opportunities for meaningful change. I also think today's topic encourages us to reflect on our own technology habits. As helping professionals, we are not immune to the same challenges our students face. Many of us also struggle with endless notifications, doom scrolling, checking emails after work, and spending more time on our device than we'd like. Modeling healthy digital habits is one of the most powerful interventions we can provide. Thank you all for your attention and your participation today.